Hey everybody, hope you're doing well today. Yesterday I posted a picture of an alien coil on my Instagram, and I had a few people get back to me saying they'd be interested in seeing how I go about doing that. So today I'm going to show you a little bit of my setup that I use, the process that I go through, and how to do it for yourself. So I use a drill for this, and I just stick a little piece of silver in there to attach my wires to. And then I'll leave a couple tails sticking out the chuck, so that way I have something to attach my weaving wire to so it doesn't slip as the drill is spinning. Over on the other side, I use some fishing swivels. I like to do 3 or 4 of them just in case 1 or 2 of them malfunction, they catch. You might be able to see it. Yeah, so typically only like 1 or 2 spins, but if say these 2 were to catch, this third one would make up for it and continue spinning. I just have those on a coiling gizmo because it clamps to my desk and it was readily available to me. You can use any sort of clamp or anything like that. So yeah, starting out, we're just going to use a single strand of 26 gauge, and we're going to go through and coil it up. Alright, so the first coil we're going to make is going to be a single coil, 26 gauge, or sorry, 30 gauge over 26 gauge. I'm going to start by wrapping this 30 gauge over my 26 gauge. When we get around to wrapping the alien around, we'll do that in the opposite direction. So if you go underneath, when we get to our next step, you're going to want to weave it over. Alright, so to make the coil, we're going to hold equal tension between our drill and our swivels, and then the coil and our spool. If the drill gets too loose, our wire will bend and our wraps will get spaced out. If our spool tension is too loose, it's going to cause it to go back on itself sometimes, or just leave you with uneven, awkward wraps. So we're going to start by starting the weave slow to get the first few down, and then as you feel comfortable, you can speed up from there. One thing that I recommend is that you hold your wire that's going in to be coiled at a 90-degree angle or less. Kind of lead it just a little bit so you can avoid the coil going back on itself. See, so right there, I wasn't holding it far enough forward and it went back on itself. So I'm just going to reverse my drill and pull that off, and then send it back to the way I had it and keep going. And once we get to a point where we're pretty satisfied with the length, I'm just going to snip it off. And we're going to be decoring this coil, so to make it easier for us to pull that out, I like to just pinch the end, reverse my drill, let it spin maybe 5, 10, 15 times. That's going to loosen the coil from our core wire. We'll clip our core wire and slide our coil right off, just like that. Alrighty, so now we have our decored coil. What we're gonna do is take 3 strands of 26 gauge and lay them parallel between our drill and the fishing swivels. So it's very important that we get these nice, flat, straight, and as parallel as possible. The better they are, the easier it's going to be when you start wrapping your next coil around them. So what I like to do is I will start out with wrapping my wires around the bit in my drill, and then running my fingers across them so they're nice and parallel I'll find a spot with my pliers, tilt it 90 degrees, and then I'll use that tension from the drill to then help me wrap this around nice, flat, and parallel. So once we have our core wires attached and set up, we're going to take our D-cord piece right here and we're going to stretch it out to look kind of like this piece here. And we're going to stretch this coil until the ridges on this one line up with our 26 gauge. So we want 1/2 moon to fit across the top of our 3 wires. So it's about a full 360 in a spiral. You're gonna want each end to line up with the ends of your core wires. So how we'll stretch this is we will grab each end with a pair of pliers. Let's see if we can get this in focus. We're gonna take our coil and just pull it apart. Once it gets to about this point, you can stop and start checking it. I've done it enough times to know it needs to be about here. And I'm looking at my phone right now, and the size of this looks deceiving. They're actually a bit closer together than it looks on there. But anyway, let's see if we can get this. Alright, so here we can see one wave covers the 3 wires. And if you're a little bit under, that's perfect because you can hold a little extra tension as you're coiling this next wire. So once we have our weaving wire pulled to the right length, we're going to take it and we're going to wrap it around our core wires. So remember, I went over when I started my single coil, so I'm going to go under and just secure this wire to our core wires. And then once we have this secure, we're going to grab a key ring, which I have right here. And this key ring is going to help us keep our wires nice and flat as we weave this coil around it. And I'm going to keep it at no more than a 1/2 inch from our coil, just to ensure that our wires do stay flat and next to each other. So once we have our wire secured, I'm just going to slowly turn my drill until, oops, wrong way, until the pattern starts to catch and lay flat over my core wires. So you can see here they're starting to come together really nicely. We're just going to start slow until we get a nice bit down, and then we're going to stop and move our keyring a little bit, and then we're going to hold this with, like I said, if you go a little bit under on your stretching, you can hold a little more tension here. I'm holding pretty loose because it's about just right here. You kind of just have to eyeball it. Once you get this small, it's hard to really tell until you're doing it. So once you have a little bit done, you can just keep going at a slow, steady pace. If you feel comfortable, you can speed up a little bit. It's very important that you're leading this coil. You don't want to be straight on with it. It's very easy for the waves in the coil to catch on each other. Alright, we'll move our keyring, move the camera a little bit. for the final step of the process, you'll notice your coil is probably a bit twisted. So you can just grab some nylon jaw pliers and just use your fingers to bend it back into shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, because as you're coiling it, it'll straighten out as well. Alright, that's good enough. So once we have our coil, I'm going to grab a piece of 22 gauge. I'm just going to start by wrapping our ends. I always start with my inside core wire, and then pull the middle, and then the outside. And then I'll continue this pattern to wrap it 2 or 3 times, depending on how much length I have here. I think I'm only going to do 2 for this one. Oops, sorry. Not quite in focus. Alright, so once we have that, it's enough of a start. I'll take the tail from my weaving wire and just do a couple lazy wraps, just so that doesn't get in my way. And then we'll just slowly start to coil this around our core wire. You get the idea. And that leaves us with an alien coil. Thanks for watching. Be sure to send me pictures or videos of whatever you create with this.